Welcome back to PSG's continued coverage of the Assassin's Creed franchise. Today we're going to be covering the major storyline to Assassin's Creed Revelations, and as I've said before, remember there is a lot of B plots and C plots in these games, but we're going to tell you the core plot so that you understand what is going on in the Assassin's Creed overall universe. Now, let's get into it. After killing Lucy Stillman, Desmond had fallen and slipped into a coma. He was brought to New York by Rebecca Crane and his father, William Miles. There, they place him once more into the Animus, putting him into the Animus' safe mode known as the Black Room. Awakening on an island, Desmond meets the digital consciousness of Subject 16, Clay, who was Abstergo's test subject before Desmond Miles. Clay explains that the only way for Desmond to reawaken is to finish living out his ancestors' memories. This will allow the Animus to separate Desmond's memories from Ezio's and repair his mind. Entering the memory portal, Desmond begins to live through the later parts of Ezio's life. Now in his 50s, Ezio has found a letter from his father that has pointed him to the fortress of Masyaf, where his father believed that Altair had hid away knowledge within a secret library. Ezio travels to the fortress only to discover that it has been taken over by Templar garrisons. Though initially overwhelmed and captured, Ezio manages to escape and discover the door to the secret library, but he learns that it has been locked by 5 keys in the shape of discs. Ezio manages to find one of the discs inside of a book that is held by the Templar captain, and he learns that the others are within the city of Constantinople. Arriving at the city, Ezio meets Yusef Tazim, who is the leader of the Assassins Guild within the city. Yusef shows him the city and gives him new equipment that the assassins have created, the hook blade. Ezio begins to work with the assassins, helping with their recruits and fighting against the Templars across the city. As he begins to search for the books and the keys, Ezio also meets Sofia Sartor, who agrees to help him in his search for the ability to read and copy some of those books. It was during this search of the city that Ezio began to fall in love with the woman. During this, Ezio also befriends Suleiman, an Ottoman prince who was caught in the middle of an argument between Selim and Prince Ahmet over who would become the next sultan. Amidst his search, Ezio aids Suleiman and discovers that the entire feud is a plot by the Templars to overthrow the Ottoman Empire and re-establish the Byzantine Empire. By killing off the Templars, Ezio discovers the final key to Altair's library. And with each key discovered, Ezio was able to learn of the final years of Altair's life. It was after defeating Al-Mulim that Altair became the mentor of the Assassin's Order. Despite his leadership, Abbas refused to follow Altair, still hating the assassin for telling him that his father had killed himself. When Altair and his wife left to fight against the Mongol hordes, Abbas took control of the assassins and killed Altair's youngest son. Altair sought revenge, but his wife tried to stop him, and in the process she was killed as well. Altair was forced to flee with his eldest son, and after 20 years of exile, he finally returned to the fortress city and killed Abbas, reclaiming his role as the mentor of the assassins. Ezio returns to the city where he discovers that Prince Ahmet has captured Sofia and demands Altair's keys for her life. Fortunately, at this time, Selim arrives with his own army and executes Prince Ahmet. Selim allows Ezio to live due to him aiding his son Suleiman, but orders him to leave the city and never return, also threatening if it wasn't for Suleiman, he would have killed Ezio on the spot. Ezio agrees, walking through the gates of the cities. And it is at this time that Desmond awakens in the Black Room. The Animus begin to purge excess data from its system, and as the Animus island is fading around them, Clay sacrifices himself, allowing Desmond's consciousness to live through the process. Back in the memories, Ezio and Sofia return once more to Masyaf. Using the discs, Ezio unlocks the library, and inside he finds the remains of Altair and his Apple of Eden. Learning that Altair has locked himself and the apple inside of the vault to hide the secrets of the Templars, Ezio decides to leave it there, believing that he has seen enough death in his lifetime. He begins to speak to Desmond by name, knowing that he must be watching, even though he doesn't know where he is, when he is, or how he can hear him. And he informs Desmond that he has moved through his life and now knows that he is merely a conduit for a message that he doesn't know. Though he believes that Desmond is the one that will make everything worth it, he reaches out, willing to impart the message. In a flash of light, Desmond stands before Jupiter, another of the first civilization members, the Isu. Jupiter begins to explain things to Desmond, referring to him as the Cipher, knowing that the man still has questions. He explains that the first civilization tried to save the world before and after its end. His people built vaults, each trying different methods to save the world, and each vault was hidden underground, hoping to avoid the conflict on the surface and protect their data. With each experiment, the vaults would send the data to the central hub. Minerva, Juno, and himself tested each experiment, trying to discover the way to save the Earth. But all of their methods failed and their world ended. Desmond watches as a solar flare lashes forward, striking the Earth, destroying the first civilization, and Jupiter explains that after the end, less than 10,000 humans survived and far less of the Isu civilization. Jupiter explains that Desmond must travel to the central hub to hopefully save the world from yet another solar flare. And with his final words, he tells Desmond to be careful, for he doesn't know what will happen next. Finally, Desmond awakens from the Animus, seeing his team looking down at him, and he looks at them, telling them that he finally knows what they have to do. And there you have it, Assassin's Creed Revelations. If this is your first video from us, please check the link down below to see the rest of the playlist. We've already covered Assassin's Creed 1, the individual characters, Assassin's Creed 2, and Brotherhood. And obviously, we'll be moving next to the next in the franchise, Assassin's Creed 3. Thank you so much for your continued support here at PSG, and I will see you next time right here.